everyone, it's Jean from the Inky studio. So good to see you back here, and welcome for the first time if you're a first time viewer. Today I'm going to do a tutorial, and I have tried to plan and think this through, so hopefully everything will go smoothly and I can do this in one video. I'm going to do the ephemera holder that I had made this summer, and I had people asking me for directions on how I put this together, but it's a little ephemera holder. It's handy dandy. It's a nice size. It's a nice size to travel with, or to just store some of your uh, smaller ephemera pieces. This also makes great happy mail. It goes, once you've made one, it goes really quite fast, and it's not that difficult at all. Now this is what you'll be needing. You'll be needing a file folder. Now I'm using a heavy duty folder because I've got a lot of them, and I'm using the middle one because I got a lot of those too. It doesn't really matter if you like this little thing in the middle here, then of course you're going to have to use the middle one, but you can use any of them and it'll just place that little tab in a different place. And you don't need the heavy duty. I do believe you should be able to do this on a regular office file folder, as long as you use a heavyweight scrapbooking paper or you print out on a heavyweight paper. And so that all that together should really be enough for that little project. And you'll need at least you'll need like 2.5 sheets of 8.5 by 11 paper. This was a boo-boo, so which is good. I only need part of that sheet. So about 2.5 sheets of that. Not sure how much of a 12-inch. I'm guessing you may need 3 of those as well, and you just won't use that much of the third one. I'm not sure. I also recommend choosing, like I have a really pretty sheet that will be on the cover that I'm going to put on the cover and put on the back. But I would recommend for the inside, where you're actually going to store most of the ephemera, you choose something that doesn't have a whole lot of graphics, so that's easier to see your ephemera. But that's just, you may not bother you. Maybe you want to use something like this, so it's up to you. But that was just one little tip I thought about. And you're going to need a sheet of vellum paper and an eyelet to put your little button on, and some string to hold it together. And then of course we're going to sew this. This will be sewn in, so you'll need a sewing machine and a little bit of glue. Now, could you do it without sewing? Yes. Yes. You could do this without sewing. I just feel that the sewing really makes the vellum paper stay on there, because sometimes glue and vellum paper don't always get along well. But yes, you could glue this. And just be prepared that maybe down the road you may have to touch it up once in a while as you go in and out to get your stuff. Sometimes it can lift up on the corners a little bit, but I think you could also glue this as well. But I'm doing it with a sewing machine. Okay, I think that pretty well covers what we need here. So we're going to take our file folder, and of course I am working with the middle. Oops, my light over here. I'm working with the middle tab. So if you're working with one of the ends, you'll be taking 3 inches off of one side, the opposite side of the tab. But because I'm working with the middle tab, I'm taking 1.5 off on each side, because you got, to maintain that middle, you got to take equal amounts on each side. So 3 inches in total, but if you're doing doing the middle, it'll be 1.5 inches. So let me just go ahead and get that. Inches on both sides. Excellent. Now once you've done that, you're going to need to cut off, not on the tab side, but on the non-tab side. You're going to cut off 5 inches from the edge over. And let's just put that in here really quick and get that cut off. So you'll want to cut off your 5 inches. And 5, oops. I think it moved on me there. And get that on here. Okay. I'm going to cut 5 inches. Now, you do have this left over, but this makes wonderful tags. So don't worry, you will use this again down the road. All right, for the folding of our folder, we are going to use the natural fold as one of the fold lines. So what you're going to need to do is score in that second one. So we're going to put a score line, and I'm going to align this folded edge, the natural fold of the file folder, up against this side, and I'm going to come over to 5 1/4 inch. And I got my stylus pen. Yeah, there. Sorry about that. Okay, my 5 1/4 of an inch right down here. Alrighty. There we go. And so that will be our fold over, like so. Okay. Now that we've got that finished, now these measurements, you can adjust them the way you would like them. The challenge, I will say, with me is that my papers have a border on it when I print them out, so everything is just a little tiny bit off. And so I made the measurements of this folder to fit my paper, but you probably could make this a little taller if you had paper that, you know, folded, that went from here to here. Well, it fit well. Even more if you have like 12 by 12 paper. But I'm just showing you the way I did it, and you know, you can always readjust it to a way that suits you better. Now, I also like to come in with a round punch on the side, because to me it kind of gives it more of a file folder feel. But that's just me. Oh, I don't do the inside. I just do the outside. I kind of like that look, but that's just aesthetics, nothing to do with structure. And then for the vellum paper, you need to cut the vellum paper pockets. Now, I will give you the measurements for my pockets. Maybe I should put them on a printed page so you can see them a little better. I'll give you the measurements for my pockets. However, this is going to vary according to what you're storing. I'll show you the finished one. I have 3 pockets going up here on the side, and I'm storing, you know, little stuff. And the second folder I'm making the pockets even smaller for even smaller stuff. So you got to think about what are you storing in here, and you want to be able to, of course, put your ephemera in, but you also want it to stick up. You want to leave enough room from the top of this to the bottom of that so that your ephemera is easy to get to, and you know, it's sticking up a little bit out of the pocket, right? So all of that is going to be very personal in the way that you want to do it. Over here I have a side one, but you could also put more of these kind over here, and it's just how you like to do it. But I will go ahead and give you the dimensions of what I'm doing. And so I'm cutting 3 pieces that are 3 1/2 by 1 1/4. So 3 1/2 by 1 1/4. I cut out 3 of those for the I can't even see these things. I guess I'm not doing much better, am I? All right, and then for the two middle pockets, I am cutting these at 2 inches by 5. So the two ones in the middle are 2 by 5s. And then for the long strip on the side, I am cutting it 1 3/4 inch wide by 8 1/4. So those are what I'm cutting them at. And you just, determine what you like or don't like. Alrighty. Now we're going to need to ink all around our project. And then we're going to start cutting up the paper. So you'll need to determine, I'm putting this on the front page. You'll need to determine what kind of a border you want to put on here. So I want my border to be something like that. And I usually take the back side and mark it up. So I just go in here and kind of eye it up, right? You'll want to cut these two pieces and these two pieces exactly the same. You'll want to cut the front exactly the same as sizes as the back. That's what I'm trying to say. So the this side needs to match this side as close as you possibly can to each other. So that's how you'll need to cut up the paper. So I'm going to cut up the paper. I'm going to ink around and be right back. All right, I have cut my paper, inked around everything. I'll give you the measurements for my paper, but yours of course may vary. They're all 8 1/4 this way, and this section was 3 5/8. The middle section was 4 3/4, and the last one was 3 1/2. Excuse me, 3 1/2. I can already see something here that I did when I was giving you measurements. I have more room here for this to be wider, and I don't know why I didn't see it in my notes, but when the ones I made from an Etsy shop, I did make this section here wider. So instead of taking off 5 inches, only take off 4 inches. And I'll probably correct this in the video, just because there's room I could have used. So sorry about that. Try to get this prepared ahead, and something is always not right. So anyways, that was my fault for not reading my notes more clearly, carefully. And so now we're going to put, now we glued on this side of the folder. Do not glue this back side. Only glue the inside. And we're going to start putting our vellum paper in. Now, it's important for number 1 to be able to squeeze out a little bead of glue. And here I'm giving you these tips just because vellum paper notoriously shows glue on the other side. Glitter glue is pretty good. It's pretty well hidden with the glitter glue, but a glue that dries clear would be pretty important, of course. If this is making this for yourself and you don't mind what it looks like, then by any means use any glue. I also recommend getting one of these little precision tip bottles, and they're all over Amazon. If you put in precision tip glue bottle, it'll probably show you several choices. These are very helpful, and not only are they helpful in getting precision gluing, but they're also good for helping your glue to go a little longer because you're not gobbing it out so fast like I tend to do with glue. And so what we're going to do is, first of all, we're going to space out our vellum. And now especially this one here on this page. I went ahead and cut out a 4th one. I know I had said 3 in the directions, but because I'm cutting them out so small, and my ephemera is very small. So we have to determine the top one has to be put in so that your ephemera won't stick out the top. So I am going to be putting postage stamps on this side. So I will just put it in and leave headway about 1 inch from the top. It's about an inch. And then this one down here, of course, can go on the very bottom. And I'm using the paper as the guideline. So this can go on the very bottom. And then I'm going to place these two equal distances from the different, equal distance between here and here and here. So, and I'm eyeing it up because I don't think it has to be perfect. But you can measure. You can absolutely measure if you feel better about that. And then I'm going to put in just a light little mark in my pencil, just to show me where these levels are going to be glued in. I'm going to put a very thin line of glue. Yeah, sure I am. Oh my goodness, there we go. Sometimes it doesn't take long. All right, I'm going to put a little thinner than that, I don't know. There we go, along the bottom and just along the edges there. That's a little bit too much there. Okay. I'm going to glue them in. Now this is where you can do this without sewing. You can just glue them all in. You might, I know that they do sell transparent two-sided tape for vellum specifically. Some company I know does that, and I forget which one, but again, I think if you searched for vellum tape that on Amazon, I think it brings it up for you. So you could do that. You could put in a two-sided tape, double-sided tape. Try to get as narrow as you can of a tape because you don't want to take up too much room in your pocket with gluing. But we're just going to put these in like that, and I'm going to go along and then do the same thing on the other sections. So I'll be putting the of course the two larger pockets I'm going to sew, so I'm going to glue them into here, and then the one longer pocket I'm going to put inside. And you may want to put, more of these on this side. I don't know what you want to do, but that's what I'm going to do, and I'll be right back. All right, so all the vellum is in place. I think I framed that last comment a little wrong. What I meant to say is you may be asking, why am I gluing it in if I'm going to sew it in? And that is so that these don't shift, because you don't want them shifting when you're sewing on top of them. So I put them in glue. I make sure it's dry before I start sewing, and that's why I glue them in and sew them as well. So let's go over that again. These four pockets, or these pockets on this side, I'm going to sew on the left side of them. I'm going to sew only on the bottom side of these three here. All right, and so in here, I am sewing the full pocket, all three sides. Here, I'm bottom pocket, I'm only sewing the two outer, the right and left side here. For this longer sheet, I am sewing it all the way down. So what's left then will be caught when I sew around the perimeter. Okay, hopefully that makes sense to you. And now I'm going to go and stitch it, and I'm using a zigzag. You may like to use a straight stitch, and it doesn't really matter what you like to use. You can see already the glitter glue is almost dried. You really can't see evidence of the glue. So I do think this works really well for vellum. Okay, I have sewn in the pockets, and this time I used a thread that kind of blended with the background. I have in the past used a contrasting thread, And just thought I would experiment with this. I don't know, just an experiment. Two tips about the sewing. And first of all, when I sewed up to the edge, if you can see, I went past the edge just a little bit and double spaced right here on each of these. Well, didn't do so much here, but here I just went past a little bit and double spaced, or went back and forth on my stitching. And that way, you know, I think these little edges would be even more secured. The next pretty important tip would be, because now you see all the stitching, and it's, you know, it's actually not too easy to stitch in vellum because it is kind of difficult to see. And so, you know, with the best of intentions, it's still got a little uneven there. But you want to make sure that your stitching will not show once you put on your papers. So you'll want to make sure that you stitch, you know, far enough to the inside that you're not going over the edge or anything of your paper, because this is going to be the exact size of the, you know, these two sides will be exactly the same. So if you were to stitch over into the file folder part, then your stitching would show. So you want to make sure you stay within those borders when you get to these edges in here. So the next part then, after this is finished, is we're going to now glue in. I'm going to glue in the back. And let's see. Yeah, I'm going to glue in all the sides because our our eyelet's going to go on the tab. So yep, I'm going to glue in all the sides. And then once I've done that, then I'm going to stitch all the way around the perimeter. And I'm going to make sure again that I stitch well down inside the page and not on the very edge. So I only want to leave like 1/8 of an inch border from my stitching to the edge. I'm going to stitch in there, and that way I can be sure that I am catching catching, you know, this side and here, and catching the pockets. Wherever the pockets are, I'm well inside that border line. So I'm going to do that all the way around. And another idea that you might want to think about is maybe you do not want to round these edges because it is a little bit more fussy to stitch a rounded edge. You might want to leave them just squared. So let me go and finish that. All right, we're getting down to the home stretch of our project here, and I have stitched on the outside, and yeah, it's not contrasting, so you can't really see it. I think next time I will use contrasting thread, but as I stitched around, you can see that I was able to catch the vellum pockets so that my border was narrow enough to get in there and catch the edges. Okay, we come down to the very last step, and that's to put your button here so you can wrap your string around it. And I'm using some leftover file folder, and I usually put in the eyelet hole first, and I'm using 3/16 of an inch, just a standard hole punch, because my eyelet is 3/16 of an inch. So you want to make sure your eyelet fits in that hole. And then I have a 3/4 of an inch hole punch, or a circle punch, and I use this so much. It's just, for me, it's the perfect size for a button. Don't know why, but it just is. And then by putting the hole in there first, I can kind of align it up. Oops, oops, that flew over. I can align up the hole, and then I usually go ahead and punch out a second hole or circle because I want to make this really nice and sturdy. So let me just glue these two little guys together like so. And since I've already got the hole made, I'll just punch out the second hole using the first one as my guide. Now you can cover this if you would like with a scrapbook paper if you want to do that. I guess maybe I'll do that. That's not a bad idea. So let me just cut out my little piece of decorative paper, make sure they got the edges glued up nicely, and we'll stick that over. And then again, I've already got the hole as my guide, and we'll put in the second or the third hole. There we go. So there is our little button there already, all ready for us to use. And so the attacher that I have for eyelets is the crocodile. That's the one I have, which is this one right here. And I do like it, but there's other eyelet attachments as well. So there's a number on the base. I don't know if you probably can't see that number, but there's a little number down there. So number 2, and it tells you in the little directions you get that that is for 3/16 of an inch eyelet. I'll just put a hole punch in that little place there. There we go. There's that. Now we're ready to put in our eyelet. So I have the eyelet facing up to me, okay, and then when I take the crocodile, there is a little that little piece sticking out here. That piece goes down at the top of the eyelet, so it just sticks right inside there. And we'll just squeeze it into place. There we are. And there's our eyelet. And now we're ready to attach our string or whatever you have. Here I have a piece of hemp cording. I think I got this in the jewelry department. And we're just going to get underneath here. And we're going to tie a knot right underneath here, like so, a square knot, like that. Oops. And cut that off. And now you'll probably want to wrap your string around a couple of times, just so you have plenty of room to fill it up with ephemera. So I'm just going to cut it out here. All right. And so now your little ephemera folder is finished. Very easy peasy to do. Like I say, once you do one, the other ones get really easy. So thank you so much for watching. I do appreciate you coming along. And please subscribe. And we'll be back with some more journals or tutorials or whatever it is. Have a great day.